Hey everybody, John Druding here. Thought I'd share some data with you today. If you went to the open house in Batstow, you might remember this map number 7. It was called Enjoyable Areas to Drive or Preferred Route map. And if you remember from the time of the survey, one of the things that was asked was to select areas of the map that you find enjoyable or notable or preferable within Wharton State Forest. And I don't know about you all, but when I saw this map at Batstow, I was scratching my head a little bit by how little data was actually showing on this map. And in fact, if you zoom in on the bottom left-hand corner here and look at the legend, you can see that the lightest color here, this color here, means that one person selected that area of the map. This little bit darker color indicates that two people selected that area of the map. The slightly darker color here means 3 or 4 people selected that area of the map. And the darkest color of all, around that sign and whatnot, that was 5 to 18 people selected that area as notable or preferred. And that's where it tops out, at 18. So what that is telling you is that no more than 18 people selected any area of Wharton State Forest as notable or interesting. And again, I was scratching my head at that, knowing how many people had submitted the surveys and knowing how much interest there is in Wharton State Forest. And then, as several people noted, if you look at the top of the map here, you can see they've got in parentheses here, under 5,000 acres. So what does that mean exactly? So what that means is that they only included in this map people who submitted under 5,000 acres worth of interesting or enjoyable areas. So to put that in perspective, what does that mean? 5,000 acres represents 4% of the total 125,000 acres in Wharton State Forest. So only 4%. So what that means is that if you're a user of Wharton and as part of this survey, you submitted more than 4% of the map as an area of interest, your data was not considered here. So let's take a look at the numbers associated with that. So 539 people submitting the survey submitted area along with it, some sort of area that they find enjoyable or notable. Of that 539, 357 selected areas more than 5,000 acres. That equates to 66% of the inputs for the survey. So that means that 66% of the inputs are not represented on this map. Now, why is that important? So, as you know, at Batstow, 500 people came to get the presentation and see these maps that the DEP presented. These are the maps that were presented to us as being the data that went into the new 2024 map. These are the maps that they presented to the press. These are the maps that they presented to our representatives and legislatures, and these are the maps that they presented to us, saying that this is how they decided on the map that they resulted with, that they showed us. And you note that the dark areas here on this map pretty much follow a lot of the major routes within Wharton State Forest. And coincidentally enough, those are pretty much the roads that are on the 2024 map. So I got to thinking, what would this map look like if we actually redrew it with all the inputs that the people submitted, right? Because if they really are using our inputs to determine what the new map should be, then I think they should show what those inputs were on this map instead of the map that they showed, which is removing 66% of the inputs. So we opened that data and it was sent to us. And I have an interest in GIS technologies, and so I'm familiar with the tools and how to manipulate this data. And so I loaded in the data that went into Map 7 into ArcGIS, and that's what you're seeing here. And you can see here the color coding matches, and the ranges over here on the right-hand side match what was shown in the Map 7 that I displayed earlier. But then I also visualized all of the submissions that were submitted by the people and used the same methodology to display it here that the DEP did. And if I turn on that layer, it looks like this. And you can see that the colors are similar. I used the same color grading from light to dark to indicate the number of people that submitted those areas. But now let's look at the scale that we're talking about here for these colors. So instead of the scale maxing out at 18 people for any given area, now the scale maxes out at 350 people. So what this means is in the darkest areas of this map, 350 people said, or between 325 and 350 people said that these darkest areas were most notable to them. The next latest color, the range there is between 300 and 325 people submitted these areas as notable. And the next range is 275 to 300 people said these areas were notable. The next range is 250 to 275 people said that these areas were notable. And the lightest color was 250 and less, with most of the areas on the entire map having 100 or more inputs for those areas. So you look at this picture versus this picture, and it's a significantly different map, right? With hundreds and hundreds of people saying that they're interested in most of the map, the area within Wharton. And when we got the Oprah data back from the state, they included a comment about this because I imagine they probably knew what we were getting at with the Oprah request. They said in the Oprah response, to appropriately analyze the data and present meaningful information, it was necessary to look at data submitted at a scale under 5,000 acres. Now, when we were submitting the surveys, they didn't tell us that we had to submit areas under 5,000 acres. And after they decided that they wanted to look at areas under 5,000 acres, they didn't give anybody the opportunity to revise their inputs to something under 5,000 acres. They just dropped the data, right? And they went on to say in the Oprah request, they want to clarify that none of the data submitted in response to the survey was discarded or otherwise not considered. So that's what they said with their words, but that's not what they demonstrated with their actions, right? The map that was presented in Batstow was map number 7, the map with the data that you're seeing here. That's what they presented to the press. That's what they told our legislators and our represented individuals that was used to go into consideration of the final map. So I can only believe that's what they did. So instead of their quote of to appropriately analyze the data and present meaningful information, it was necessary to look at data submitted at a scale under 5,000 acres. I think what they actually meant was, to get the answer that we wanted, it was necessary to look at data at a scale under 5,000 acres. So what do you guys think, guys? Tell me in the comments.